Hello and welcome to Election Centre. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. On the show tonight, the disgusting, contemptible criminal behaviour by a Sena MP, Ravindra Gaikwad, who was apparently so incensed at not being able to fly business on the national carrier that he assaulted a senior Air India staffer when he was asked to disembark from the plane. That's not all. When confronted, he showed brazen disregard for the law, saying proudly, yes, I hit him 25 times with my slippers. We're asking tonight, can our lawmakers get away as they break the law? Yes, this is criminal behavior. Or is it time to make an example of this MP? Should he not just be barred from all flights, but also sacked by his party and stripped of his parliamentary privileges? Air India has already put him on a no-fly list. But why can't the Civil Aviation Ministry ground this man altogether?
मैंने सैंडल से 25 मारा है जी मारा है ना
क्यों मारा सर सांसद हैं आप तो
In an appalling display of India's VIP culture, Ravindra Gaikwad, a first-time Shiv Sena MP from Maharashtra, bragging after he beat an Air India staffer this morning. The incident took place when the lawmaker refused to get off his Pune flight after it landed in Delhi, reportedly upset that he regularly had to fly economy despite having an open business class ticket.
उनको बोला मैं अब सीनियर है बैठे बीपी मत बढ़ाओ बैठ के बात करो आवाज चढ़ेगा आवाज थोड़ा नीचे करके बोलो
क्या बोला?
बोल एमपी खाली करना मेरा जिम्मेदारी है तो आप तेरा कंप्लेन करूंगा मोदी पास मारा है
आपको रिग्रेट नहीं है, मतलब आपको नहीं लगता कि आपने कुछ गलत किया?
अरे मैं गलत किया तो एयर इंडिया फ्लाइट बंद करे ना ऑफिस बंद करे ना
सर आपके साथ बदतमीजी हुई?
बिल्कुल हुई 100%।
सर आपको आपका चश्मा भी तोड़ दिया सर?
हाँ तोड़ दिया।
क्या आपको लग रहा था कि ऐसा कभी होगा?
नहीं, सवाल ही नहीं उठता, मेरा चश्मा टूटा था।
Air India has now filed a criminal case against the lawmaker and is also preparing a no-fly list of unruly passengers. The MP staff was specifically told before the flight that it was an all-economy flight. The MP has also declared that he would complain to the Lok Sabha Speaker and Aviation Minister Ashok Gajapati Raju. But the minister preempted him.
Physical assault is not a thing which any democratic person of any political party will encourage. And any physical assault will always be condemned.
Mr. Gaikwad's party, however, refused to condemn the incident.
We really need to find out that what made him lose his temper, because he is not the person who would suddenly jump into such thing.
Our lawmakers in Parliament are often referred to as honourable members of Parliament or honourable MPs. But Mr. Gaikwad, after this morning's physical assault on an airline staffer, perhaps doesn't quite fit into this description. From the Parliament House with camera colleague Sashikant Jha, this is Sandeep Phukand for NDTV.
Well, we all know that many of our netas tend to be blatant about asserting their power, their privileges, their sense of entitlement. But this is no ordinary neta. This is a parliamentarian, an MP. And joining us on the show tonight are two Lok Sabha MPs, Sushmita Deb from the Congress, Babul Supriyo from the BJP. He's also Minister of State for Public Enterprises. And I'm very glad both of you are here tonight, because this really is about a parliamentarian, a lawmaker of the land, not conforming to what appears to be even the law, let alone standards of behavior. It's very, very unfortunate that the Shiv Sena refuses to speak on this show. We have tried all their representatives tonight. The MP himself is now missing. We sent an OP van to his residence as well, which is locked down, and he's clearly not. After his brazen behavior to begin with, is just not willing to face the press anymore. The Shiv Sena, after defending him initially, seems to have gone entirely quiet. But we need to hear a condemnation from you tonight. And Babul Supriyo, I'm going to begin with you really, because the Sena, for all its problems with you, is still an ally. If we don't hear an unequivocal condemnation from them, will we at least hear it from the BJP tonight?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that I always do not need to speak as a minister. I always do not need to understand who my ally is, who is not. I always do not need to make political comments. What I would rather want to talk now is about propriety and logic. Firstly, we as lawmakers, we make the law, and therefore we have to be a little careful, not only little careful, in fact very careful before we take law into our own hands. Just because you're making them, I'm saying this with a light note, just because you're making them doesn't give you any reason to assault someone or take law in your own hands. However, we are not aware of what exactly happened on the flight, who actually misbehaved and who actually crossed the lines. Once again, I want to make it very clear that assault or saying that I have hit someone and I would have thrown him off the plane is definitely not something that you can associate or is desirable.
But Babu Shukla, can there be any extenuating circumstances
listen, one Ankita, one thing.
Yes.
No, one thing. Like, you know, we have seen, like, there are good netas and bad netas. There are good policemen, bad policemen, and good employees and bad employees as well. Let me tell you one thing, that it is very easy to make a MP a soft target. I'm not speaking for the Shiv Sena Neta. I'm just saying, however, there are uniforms that the police uses and other government services uses, and you say if there is you have altercation with them, the MP or the Neta becomes a soft target. You say that you have obstructed an officer
how is this,
while he is in
Babu
official
Shukla,
uniform.
I'm sorry, with respect,
let me tell you that we do not have a Ankita, one second, one last time.
How can we try and condone this
one last
behavior or
time.
look for
I'm not
extenuating
supporting.
circumstances here?
I am.
We have the staffer's testimony on record.
We are not wearing.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Ankita,
Because
one second, let me finish what
I'm really
saying.
at pains to understand here.
It will misconstrue the. See, I'll make you understand. Let me finish, please. Don't interrupt. What I'm saying is, we are not wearing uniforms. If the MPs were given uniforms, we would have probably worn them. But we are also on official duty on uniform. So instead of, without knowing what exactly the thing is, it's very hard to know who insinuated whom. But I must condemn that no MP should do what he did, hitting someone, saying on camera with so much of candor that I can, I could have thrown him from the. That has to be highly condemned. And I'm a little surprised that Shiv Sena has not go ahead and said sorry about the behavior. You can get into 100 debates after that.
I think that's a very important statement coming in from you. Why is it that we have not heard from the Shiv Sena yet, beyond a half-hearted defense that there might have been circumstances?
And one more thing,
we don't know what the story is.
One more thing,
we
one
need
more
an
thing.
unequivocal condemnation
one more thing,
from
I think
the BJP
one more
and
thing,
the Sena. Yes.
One more thing, one small thing. He said I think he maligned Balasaheb Thackeray by saying that he has taught us that you explain a thing good in a very nice manner 10 times, फिर भी समझ में नहीं आया. If you still don't understand, कान के नीचे दो एक. I think that was probably not at all desirable or required.
And this is somebody who is a repeat offender. Shushmita Dev, this is somebody who has already been charged in the past with rioting, with criminal intimidation, even with culpable homicide. Now, one could argue that for him, beating up somebody or slippering somebody is probably a minor offense. And here we are getting agitated about that. Does this man have any business being in Parliament?
Well, I'll say that even the lawmakers are not above the law, and this is clearly a case of assault. Moreover, I'll say that after having done what he's done, he seems to have no regret, which is even more surprising and appalling. And I hope that Shiv Sena as a party, if they had condemned it, at least we could have defended the party saying he's one rotten apple and everybody is not like that. But I think the silence of the Shiv Sena is speaking volumes, and it's unfortunate. And I believe the Civil Aviation Ministry or Air India has filed an FIR. So hopefully the law will take its course. But I just think that every time a public representative misbehaves, we all stand to lose, because a very wrong impression goes out in the public domain that, oh, politicians are bad, or they misbehave, or they have a sense of entitlement. So somewhere he's done all of us some disservice, I think.
Shushmita Dev, I think we need to go beyond that and make a distinction that this isn't just bad behavior or just stepping out of line for a politician. This is actually a criminal offense. He assaulted a public servant while being a public servant himself. And that in itself attracts a penalty of up to 2 years in jail. Now, do you believe that it is now time to make an example of a Neta who is actually, guilty of criminal behavior, not just contemptible behavior or arrogance or, you can call it VVIP racism or whatever. This is a criminal act.
Of course, it's a criminal act, and it has many a times before elections or after elections, the entire country has been concerned about politicians with any criminal record. I mean, that's a larger debate. I don't want to get into it because there are many members of parliaments who have very serious charges against them who are sitting in the parliament. But having said that, clearly what he's done is an offence under the IPC, and I hope that he's tried, because after all, it's very unfortunate that the person had to face that humiliation who did face it inside the flight. And I saw him on your channel. He's a 60-year-old man, and nobody deserves to be treated like that, even if he is guilty of bad service. Let's say someone doesn't serve you properly and you paid for it and you expect a certain standard, but this is absolutely no way of behaving with anybody, and I agree with you that he should be tried for it as an offence.
All right, I can't emphasize this enough, and I have over here the complaint that Air India has now filed, and it's worth really quoting from the duty manager's account. This is the man who was assaulted. He says, I was in charge of the flight. We had to send the same flight. This was flying in from Pune to Delhi, onwards to Goa, and approximately 115 passengers were still waiting to board. He wanted the top management inside the aircraft because he wanted to complain about the fact that he couldn't fly business. Now, how he expected to fly business on an all-economy flight is anybody's guess. But anyway, he refused to disembark and then became abusive, used foul language. When I spoke to him in English, he told me to speak to him in Hindi. Then he used foul language. He started beating me up. Now, this is perhaps, the crux of the matter. He took out his slipper. He started hitting me. The staff who were present tried to save me. He also tried to throw me out from the step ladder. Now, this could have got presumably a whole lot worse if this elderly gentleman, a 60-year-old duty manager, had actually fallen off the step ladder of the plane. Babu Chupriyo, today we heard from your cabinet colleague, the civil aviation minister. He condemned it, but he didn't really go beyond to say that, this is a man who should be grounded from flying altogether.
Once again, I would say that it's very easy to make any MP, let me not specifically speak about this situation for a second. I think it's very easy to make a Neta look like a villain. Even, it's like on a road, you hit a cycle hits a car, it's the car guy who gets hit up sometimes. So anyone who misbehaved on the flight, both including the Air India staffer, he should also be reprimanded if it's found out that he did not behave appropriately. But this, what we are talking about, this hitting and all that, as you said, it's in the public domain. It is something which is condemnable, and law, there have been FIRs filed, and law will take its course. If the man fell from the stairs, had he pushed him off the stairs, I don't know what would have happened. It would have put all of us in bad light. And I am not talking because Shiv Sena is an ally, and I am not mincing my words. I think that we lawmakers definitely need to be more responsible. We all have our short tempers. We lose them. There could be a couple of red card situations in life, like it happened on football fields. But basically, when he cooled down after coming back, getting on ground, after getting grounded, he could have probably definitely gone and said, sorry, I lost my temper, this is what the case is, let it be investigated. That's it. That's something that was the minimum thing that we could have expected him, not to keep that arrogance.
Yes, it's certainly the minimum we could have expected from him, but we certainly expect better
as a human being, you can lose your temper.
You can lose your temper, but can you assault a public servant who's doing his duty?
No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't do that. Neither
glad.
Can an MP be assaulted. He is also on public duty. Let us talk about two human beings, not an MP and an Air India staffer. Can I hit someone on the road?
There were witnesses to
Can
the
I-
entire incident. I
can I
don't
hit
think the
someone on the
MP
road?
was assaulted.
Can I hit someone
Nor
on the
has he
road? No,
claimed
I
that
can't.
he was assaulted. He hasn't even claimed that he was assaulted. He is speaking from a position of power, a position of entitlement.
So he
is
said
not.
what he said.
He is just assaulting somebody who he feels was rude to him or who perhaps questioned the fact that he was an MP. That's all it was. But Sushmita Deb, you know, we heard the MP on camera say that I am in the wrong. I will now approach the Lok Sabha speaker and I will complain. Now, utterly ludicrous as that may seem, I want to turn this on its head and now ask you, is it now, you know, the Lok Sabha's duty to make an example of this MP? Should he be stripped of his parliamentary privileges? There has to be some reaction.
Ankita, in a country where we believe in the rule of law, it always happens that both sides will be heard. So nothing can be a foregone conclusion. But having said that, I'm sure that the ethics committee or the honorable speaker of the Lok Sabha will hear him out and what actually transpired. But assuming, let's say that the Air India staff did not give the service or did not treat him with propriety, which officers and public servants are supposed to when it comes to a member of parliament. But the question is, where I'm coming from is that you cannot start hitting somebody. If someone misbehaves with you as an officer or as a public servant or as an Air India staff or anywhere else, there is a procedure in place. Now, you have to invoke that procedure. You have to put your grievances before that committee or before the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. So, without doing that, you can't take it upon yourself. You cannot take it upon yourself and start beating that person and slapping that person. I don't think anybody is allowed to do that because that is simply not the law of the country. But having said that, anything that is taken up by the ethics committee, both sides will be heard because that's the system, that's the principle of natural justice.
All right, once again, we hear of the ethics committee. We don't know what
Ankita,
decision it will take. Yes, Babu Chopra, I'll come to you in just a moment, but I also want to bring into the conversation now Jitendra Bhargav, former director of Air India, who's also with us on the show tonight. Thank you, Mr. Bhargav. You know, in the first few minutes of this debate that we've been having, we've had both the Lok Sabha MPs on the show tonight from the Congress and the BJP raising questions about, you know, they're condemning the behavior of the Sena MP, but they're also asking whether there could have been any extenuating circumstances, whether the Air India staffer had been discourteous or not. Are these really concerns we need to be looking at? Or is this, in your opinion, simply a matter where a public servant, the duty manager of Air India, who was doing his job, has been assaulted and therefore be treated as a criminal act?
You see, the first thing is the behavior of the member of parliament is condemnable. You cannot give any justification for it. Having said that, the question is, was there any provocation? No provocation can be large enough for a member to pick up his chappals and beat up the Air India staffer. Simply not acceptable. I have been privy to the report of what the Air India duty manager submitted. What it says is that all that the man who was beaten up had said was, sir, you are a member of parliament. We expect you to behave better and you have to be leaving the airport because the aircraft needs to be used for another flight. This was like a red rag for him and he started beating him up. How can one justify it? Simple, if this is provocation and the way he's gone about subsequently bragging that this is what he did, not a sense of remorse, I don't think anybody can support it. And it is because of these factors that we believe that the members of parliament must behave more responsibly, should not beat up public servants. And
but
if they
Jitendra
do so,
Bhargav, with
not
your
only
long
the parliament
association
speaker
with
should be
Air
Speaker of
India,
the
do
Lok
you
Sabha.
believe that the public carrier is particularly, you know, open to this sort of behavior from netas who feel that as though it's their right to be able to command the best service, the best seats in the house, then, you know, essentially treat Air India as their own fiefdom?
Yes, they do. Just because Air India is funded by taxpayers, but the government has been infusing equity, these people believe they own the airline. Now, which is unfortunate. If Air India has to be run in a commercial airline, as a commercial airline, allow it to run the way other Indigo, Jet Airways, SpiceJet are running. Now, but these members of parliament Of course, we have more instances in Air India because the larger number of parliamentarians travel on Air India flights. So you have that many more examples coming in. And private sector people, they do not throw their weight around.
I have a strong...
The courtesies are extended by the private carriers. Yes. But in the case of Air India, there are privileges that they are getting out.
All right, Babu Supriyo has a counter to that.
One second. I have a strong thing to say about what Mr. Bhargav is saying.
Yes,
Mr. Bhargav, please refrain from using netas and saying parliamentarians using using Air India as if they own it. You are a senior member. You are a senior. You have been an ex high-posted man in Air India. Please do not generalize. May I ask you how many times your colleagues or you, I'm not saying you, may have used illegal upgradation to upgrade your passengers on the flight? Please do not generalize, number one. Number two, Air India, why don't you talk about, why didn't you generally talk like the people? No, let me finish. You said what you said. Do not generalize. Just because someone is a neta or a politician or a parliamentarian, I have seen hundreds of them traveling on Air India. No one misbehaves or thinks that is owned by them. Sushmita will agree with me. We do not do that. Some people do it, identify them, put in a written complaint. Do not generalize.
Okay, that's a fair point that you're making, but Babu Supriyo, let's get back to the specifics.
Number two, you go on an airport, please let me speak. You go to an airport and see how general people, no, you cannot generalize. Please do not generalize. As an ex-Air India person, do not generalize netas and parliamentarians. There are good netas and bad netas. There are good servicemen and bad servicemen. This incident needs to be probed. It is condemnable. But do not just stand by without our investigation.
Okay, I'm glad we've come back to this incident.
You cannot generalize.
Because Babu Supriyo, I want to bring your attention to this specific incident. Mr. Bhargav,
in the airport.
Can I please give me a minute?
No, you cannot counter this. You have to take back the word.
Please.
You have to take back the word that there are good parliamentarians and bad parliamentarians.
I am not
you
taking
cannot
back
say
the word.
Parliamentarians use it. No, do not generalize.
Gentlemen, please. I am in full agreement with you that there are good members of parliament and there are bad members, and there are examples.
Thank you.
But what I was alluding to was that the Parliamentary Ethics Committee and the Privilege Committee of it has laid down certain parameters that these are the kind of privileges that need to be extended to member of parliament. It is in black and white. So I'm not speaking off the cuff or without having adequate knowledge. As regarding upgradation, let me also tell you, 80% of the recommendations for upgradation come from members of parliament. You can check up with the minister's office. You know
how many people?
The question is,
Mr. Bhargav, I am part of the government now. I exactly know what you're talking about. Mr. Bhargava, I exactly know what you're talking about. I was part of
now, before this becomes a larger fight about privileges of parliamentarians, I want to bring it back to this because I only have time for last comments now.
I exactly know about the written rules.
About
the written rules.
No, let's not say parliamentarians. Gentlemen, you can't be heard.
They think it's just
let me reiterate. I agree and 100% agreement with you that not every member of parliament seeks privileges. Not every member of parliament misbehaves.
Mention that.
But there
are some the last words on this.
Flight gets delayed.
Yeah, I just want to say
from the airline.
Okay, Sushmita Dev,
not all. I agree with you.
Very quickly because I'm completely out of time here.
Babulda, I think it's a two-way road. I've had many good experiences on flights and I've had very bad experiences with services on flights.
Yeah.
I don't want to name any airline here.
Out of life.
A friend of mine, eight MPs, we were traveling to London on Air India and they simply forgot to serve her with dinner. But I don't think
having said that, how could he expect Air India to bring business class seats out of nowhere? This was an all-economy flight.
Ankita, listen to me. What I'm saying is,
put him to justice. Don't say netas parliamentarians generally. We don't do that on a flight.
Please, exactly. So what I'm saying is that no matter what, you cannot assault another person, even if that person is giving you bad service. We all agree on that. But what Babulda is saying is right. That don't generalize it. And there are ample examples of staff also misbehaving with passengers. Need not be an MP.
I'm going to pose one final question to you. Are we unlikely to see the Shiv Sena take any action against this MP? Sack him from the party seems to be very far. They have, after all, 11 MPs in the Lok Sabha. They don't want their numbers to go down. Babul Supriyo, one quick last word from you. Is the Sena relying on public memory to be short and hoping that this will just blow over?
I'll text you Uddhav. I'll text you Uddhav Thackeray's number after the show, Ankita. He has to answer.
All right. I'm going to leave it at that tonight. Jitendra Bhargav, Srishmita Deb, Babul Supriyo, thank you for joining us on the show. This sets a terrible precedent, perhaps one that we really now need to see an example being made of this politician. We hope to see some action, certainly from his party, which has chosen to be silent tonight, and perhaps from Parliament as well. Thank you for watching this show. Lots more coming up on NDTV 25.